In this video, we'll discuss some of the most important audiences for Facebook ads, and those are the lookalike audiences. And lookalike audiences are really good because they kind of help you get more people who are similar to a specific valuable audience that you already have. So if you go here to Audience Manager, and again, if you don't know how to get to, it's over here in the Business Tools under Advertise Audiences, and within Audience Manager, you can create lookalike audiences. Now, the first thing that you need to give a lookalike audience is another audience. So it has to have a source. This source can be, it's basically a custom audience. And there's two types of it. So custom audience would be any type of custom audience that we discussed in the last video. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and see it. And there's also the option of creating a custom audience with lifetime value. And this is what we discussed when we were talking about creating a lookalike audience of your most valuable customers by including your customer lifetime value in your custom audience. So the way to do that, first of all, you do need to have a business manager to do that. You can't do it if you just have an ad account. So if you're not using Facebook Business Manager, this is one of the things that you can't really do because you need to accept the terms on behalf of a certain business, which in this case is our Business Manager Startup Masters 1. And so it's important for you to read these requirements for using value-based custom audiences because they are specific, because you are providing specific information about your customers and you need to have the right to do that. So first of all, to use custom audiences, you must be an advertiser, an agency or data provider acting on behalf of an advertiser or a marketing API or custom audiences API partner. So what this means is that you need to have a business manager at least, or kind of fall into one of these other categories. And advertisers and those who run ads on their behalf are ultimately responsible for acknowledging their permission to share and use people's data. This is specifically important as of right now in Europe. Because in Europe we have something called the GDPR, or the General Data Protection Regulation from the European Union, which affects everyone in the world. So if you are using data provided by people or acquired by people who live within the borders of the European Union or are citizens of the European Union, then you are subject to the GDPR compliance, and you do need to have people's permission to share and use their data. And then if you do accept, you can upload a CSV with these values, and then I'll just download the document to show you how it looks. Here in the example document, you can see the value. So when you upload your custom audience, for example, downloaded by your CRM or by your online store or by your email marketing software, something like Klaviyo, then you would have the values over here. And by these values, Facebook will create a value-based lookalike audience of the people who are similar to this information that you provide over here, like for example, their zip code, the location, the country, and so on, their gender and age and so on, and they will use all of this information. Now, it's dangerous for you to provide for such an audience, like a value-based audience, for you to provide just the identifier. So in other cases where you want to find people who are more like your customers, and maybe they've completed a certain event like the purchase event, then the identifier is enough because Facebook has enough information on those people and they can use their own data. And that also happens when you do provide your most valuable customers, but they will be less people. And so that's why it becomes more important for you to provide all the information that you have about these customers when you create this document. So you can add all the information that you have on your customers for such an audience. Now, here in this section on how to format customer lists, you can actually add more. As you can see here, you have email, phone, mobile, advertiser IDs, and different identifier types, and a lot more information that you can provide over here, and also how to format it. You can use that to kind of expand your list and format it properly. If you don't format it properly, Facebook will not use the information that you provide, and they will consider the field empty. So that's another important thing to remember. Now, let's close this down and create our first lookalike audience. So let's say we want to create a lookalike audience of the people who have made a purchase. So first of all, we need to select the audience that we have. So we will, in this case, we will select the pixel. And actually, it's important to mention some very important things about lookalike audiences before we do that. So let's zoom this up a little bit. If you go to the Business Help Center, there's an article from Facebook about lookalike audiences. It's important for you to check this out. Here, this information over here I've already told you, but there's some additional things that you need to consider. First one is they generally recommend a source audience with between 1,000 to 50,000 people. Source quality matters as well. So you don't want to provide very small audiences to create lookalike audiences from, because the more data Facebook has, the more accurate your lookalike audience is. So if you provide, basically said in other words, if you provide, let's say 10 people, an audience of 10 people, or 100 actually, because it must contain at least 100 people. So if you provide an audience of 100 people and they don't have a lot of information on those 100 people, your lookalike audience will be very broad and not very well targeted. So pretty much that would be like saying to Facebook, hey, target wherever you want. You don't want to do that. And so that's why you should aim for your audience to be between 1,000 and 50,000 people. Now, of course, it's kind of hard for you to get 1,000 purchases before you can create an audience. So the later and the harder the conversion event that you select for this audience criteria, and the more important it is, the less people you can do. But generally, for purchases, you should go with at least 200 people. And then you can update the audience, of course. So now going on with the additional information, which is quite important. So first of all, your lookalike audience will only include people from the countries that you selected during creation. So that's number one. So here, when you select a location, you will be, if I select Canada here, and this is a full-featured audience selector, by the way, just like they work in the ad sets. So if you select Canada, your lookalike audience will only include people from Canada, even if your source audience is with people from, let's say, Germany. So whatever you select here, that's where Facebook will get your lookalikes from. And another thing is that you must select something. You cannot create the lookalike audience before you actually select a location. And you can use also the abstract concepts like Europe over here. Or maybe you can. Yeah, you can. But you can select like more. Wow, that's interesting. Anyways, you can make a list of countries. So let's say you can go with Italy and then Germany and so on, and just kind of select a large number of countries if that's what you want, if you want your lookalike audience to be broad. Going back to this, your source audience must contain at least 100 people from a single country in order for you to use it as the basis for a lookalike audience. So if you're selling internationally, this is quite bad, by the way. So you need to have 100 purchases from a single country to be able to create a lookalike audience for purchasers. That's why this is kind of bad. It's bad on the one hand and good on the other, because if you provide too little information, Facebook is just going to have too broad of an audience, and that lookalike audience is just not going to be any good. So kind of it's good on the one hand, but why does it have to be from a single country, since the source doesn't matter when you are actually selecting your target country? So what that means is that your purchases could be from Germany and you're creating a lookalike audience for people in Italy. Why does it matter that these 100 people have to be from the same country is beyond me, but that's the way it works. I don't think it should work like that. I don't think the single country should be included in that, but Facebook kind of have to fix their own stuff as well. So yeah, just important for you to know. You can create up to 500 lookalike audiences from a single source audience. This is kind of more than enough, so not a problem really. And people in your source audience will be excluded from your lookalike audience unless you use a pixel as your source audience. This is very important. Now, as you can see here, we can either select an audience and create a lookalike audience for that audience. In this way, we are using the audience and the people in it and not the Facebook pixel. And in this other case, where we create a lookalike audience and create a source, and let's say that would be the website, here we are using the pixel. So we are saying, hey, I want you to use this specific pixel to do that. Now, this has several implications. So if you do want to exclude people from your source audience from your lookalike audience, then you should create a separate audience using your pixel and then target that and create a lookalike from it. So if you want to include the people in your source audience in your lookalike audience, then you need to use the pixel and do it this way. Right? I hope that makes sense. And so I can create two audiences out of that, and they will be different. So just to give you an example, that would be lookalike 30 days pixel. We don't want to create the lookalike of the lookalike. And then if I select that audience, even though I'm still getting the data from the pixel, I can then select my audience and create a lookalike of it. And that would be, maybe I could use the 30 days just so that they're similar. I want to create a lookalike of that. So that would be lookalike purchasers last 30 days audience. Right? My naming is not very good. Yeah, that would be the purchasers last 30 days. And here I need to select a country, which will be Canada. And you can see here also how many people that includes. Sometimes it doesn't work. but it says that you are going to reach an estimated 262,000 people. And of course, with lookalike audiences, you are creating a similar audience. And so this similarity rating ranges between 1% and 10%. So 1% means that the people which Facebook is going to target are going to be the 1% of the people who are most similar to the people that you have selected. So it doesn't mean that 99% they're the same, which is what a lot of people think. And this is kind of important for you to understand. So let's say that you upload a list, and all of the people in this list that you uploaded are 55 years old. So if you select a 1% lookalike audience and Facebook doesn't have any more information about that, your lookalike audience will basically contain the 1% people who are most similar to your audience. And since everyone is 55 years old, most likely your lookalike audience will be full of people who are 55 years old, and maybe there will be some who are 54 and then 56. So kind of that's how it works. Facebook will select 1% of the people who share these similar aspects, similar data points, interests, demographics options, and pretty much everything you can target on Facebook, and some things that you even can't, which is why the lookalike audiences are very good, because Facebook has more information that you can actually use for targeting. And then out of the similarities, people will select the 1% of people who are most similar. That does not, however, mean at all that they are kind of have 99% the similar attributes as the audience you selected. So they're not that similar. They are just the closest 1%. After that, so if you do have, generally we recommend that you start with a 1% lookalike audience, since it's pretty much going to be very big anyway. And then if that works, you can then expand it to maybe 2%, maybe then 5%, and then if it really works, then you can go with 10. And you can see here, it kind of ranges from 260,000 to 2.6 million. So that kind of gives you a range of how many people you want to target. Now, again, if you have a lower number of data points in your target audience, so let's say you just have 200 purchases, that does not mean that you need to go with a very wide lookalike audiences. You still want the most similar people, even though they're not going to be too many, but sometimes you might need to increase that to 3-4% to go there. But first, generally it's recommended that you start with a 1% audience, see if it works, and then if it works, you can potentially create a new audience that is, let's say, the same. So this one is going to be 1%, and then you can also select this audience and create another lookalike from it that would be 5%, and go with Canada again. Right, so these two audiences will be significantly different. This one is 5 times bigger, so you're taking 5% of the most similar people, not 1%. And generally, that's kind of how it works. So if you select the 5% audience, these people will be a lot less similar to your audience than these people. So these are more targeted and less people. These are less targeted and more people. That's kind of how it works. And generally, what you want to do with lookalike audiences, they are some of the best audiences on Facebook. With your most valuable event for your business. Maybe that's the purchase or the lead or some kind of a subscription, or it could be lifetime value as well. These most valuable things that happen with your business, your biggest, most important data points and KPIs, when you create a lookalike, 1% lookalike audience of these people, that would be your best cold audience. So these are people who don't know your business, they've never interacted with it, but they're very similar to the people who are either purchasing from you or maybe your most valuable customers. And so in 99% of the cases, a lookalike audience of your purchases will be your best cold audience. But first, you need to get there. You need to generate data points in your Facebook pixel, and you need to kind of run some ads before you get there. And that's why we don't start with the lookalike audiences, and we can't. But they can be extremely valuable. And you can also create lookalike audiences from your website data points. So that would be just like I showed you with the customer lifetime value. It could be specific people who are maybe the most engaged with your business. So let's say if we wanted to, with Masters Academy, we could export a list of our most engaged students, people who see the most content, who get the most certificates, who spend the most time on our platform, and then maybe advertise to get more people like that who are more engaged and really benefit a lot more from our content. So they're purchases, but they are also very engaged students. And so that's another way in which you can use lookalike audiences. Make sure you do. They are very, very good. They're probably the best cold audiences that you'll ever have on Facebook. Right. That's pretty much everything you need to know about lookalike audiences. And I'll see you guys in the next video.